Ever looked at a financial report and just seen a sea of numbers? Well, today we're going to talk about the secret language that turns all that noise into a clear story. We're talking about statistics, the essential toolkit that helps analysts make sense of markets, companies, and the economy. So let's dive in and see how it's done.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start by figuring out the difference between data and information. Then, we'll see where analysts actually get all this stuff. After that, we'll sort through the different kinds of data, understand the 4 ways to measure it, and finally, wrap it all up by seeing how to visualize the big picture.
First up, let's tackle what is probably the most fundamental idea of them all: how we turn a bunch of raw facts into something you can actually use, into real insight. This is truly where all the value is created. This question might seem almost too simple, right? But I promise you, understanding this distinction is at the absolute heart of all financial analysis. It's what separates the noise from the signal. So let's really break it down. So what exactly is data? Well, think of it like the raw ingredients for a recipe. It's every single stock trade, every quarterly earnings number, every little change in interest rates. They're just individual, unprocessed facts, sitting there on their own. And this is where the magic happens. If data is the ingredients, then statistics is the chef following a recipe. It's the engine that takes all those raw facts, then processes, organizes, and analyzes them. And what comes out isn't just a pile of numbers anymore. Boom! It's information. It's insight that tells you a story and helps you make a decision.
Okay, so if data is our raw material, our ingredients, where in the world do financial analysts actually go to get it? Let's take a look at the sources.
It really boils down to 2 main buckets. First, you've got primary data. This is when you roll up your sleeves and collect it yourself. Maybe you run your own investor survey or something. But honestly, in finance, you're almost always using secondary data. This is the stuff that somebody else already did all the hard work to collect. And we are talking about an unbelievable amount of data. Professionals tap into these massive specialized databases. You've got giants like Compustat and CRSP that have decades of super detailed company and stock price data, or DataStream for a global view. These aren't just spreadsheets, they're absolute gold mines where analysts dig for insights. So we've got our hands on the data. Now what? Well, we can't just throw it all into one big pile. We have to sort it. And trust me, understanding the kind of data you're working with is absolutely critical because it literally dictates what you can and can't do with it later. Let's start with the 2 big ones you'll see everywhere. First is time series data. Think of this like watching a movie of a single character. You're tracking one thing over time, like a company's stock price every day for a year. Then you have cross-sectional data. This is more like taking a single photograph of a big crowd. It's a snapshot of many different things at one specific moment, like the stock prices of all 100 companies in an index at 4 p.m. today. So what happens when you combine them? You get something called panel data, and it is incredibly powerful. Check out this table. If you read down any column, you're tracking one company over several years. That's the time series part. But if you read across any row, you're getting a snapshot of many different companies in a single year. That's the cross-sectional part. It gives you the best of both worlds. Okay, quick recap. We have our data and we've sorted it. The next piece of the puzzle is to understand how it's measured. And this is so important because the measurement scale tells you exactly what kind of math you're allowed to do. I like to think of these 4 levels like climbing a ladder. Each step up gives you more information and more analytical power. We're going to start at the very bottom with nominal and climb our way all the way to the top, to ratio. So the first rung on the ladder is the nominal scale. This is as basic as it gets. Here, numbers are basically just name tags. They're labels for different categories. So if you code a listed company as 1 and an unlisted one as 0, the 1 isn't bigger or better than 0, it's just a different bucket. There's no order to it. All right, taking a step up, we get to the ordinal scale. Now, the order actually matters. The perfect example, credit ratings. We all know that a AAA rating is better than AA, and AA is better than A. There's a clear ranking. But, and here's the catch, is the difference in risk between A and AA the same as the difference between AA and AAA? Not necessarily. We know the order, but the gaps between the ranks aren't equal. Climbing higher, we hit the interval scale. Now, the distance between numbers is equal and meaningful. Think about temperature in Celsius. The jump from 10 to 20 degrees is the exact same as the jump from 20 to 30 degrees. But, and this is a big one, There's no true zero. 0 degrees Celsius doesn't mean the absence of heat. Because of that, you can add and subtract, but you can't say 20 degrees is twice as hot as 10 degrees. The math just doesn't work that way.
And finally, we've made it to the top of the ladder, the ratio scale. This is the whole shebang, the most powerful level. Why? Because it has a true absolute zero. Zero revenue means the company earned nothing. A stock price of zero means it's worthless. And because zero means nothing, we can use all the math we want. A company with $2 million in revenue really does have twice the revenue of one with $1 million. The ratios are completely meaningful.
Now, this is what makes it all click. You can take the exact same idea, like a company size, and measure it on different scales depending on what you need. For the most detail, you could use a ratio scale, market cap down to the penny. Or you could simplify it to an ordinal scale and just rank companies from #1, #2, #3. Or go even simpler with a nominal scale and just label them large, medium, or small. The scale you choose all depends on the question you're trying to answer. Okay, we've gathered our data, we've sorted it, we've figured out how to measure it. What's the final crucial step? Making it easy to understand. We need to actually see the story in the numbers, and that is the power of visualization. Analysts have a whole toolkit for bringing data to life. They can use anything from statistical tables and histograms to pie charts for showing market share, scatter plots for revealing relationships, and of course, time series charts for tracking trends over the years. And really, this says it all. Just look at the difference here. On the left, you have a dense table of numbers. Sure, all the precise data is there, but your brain has to work really hard to make sense of it. But then you glance at the chart on the right, bam, you instantly see the pattern, the dips, the rises. The story just jumps out at you. Visualization turns data into a narrative you can understand in seconds.
So there you have it. We've gone from a simple pile of raw numbers all the way through collecting, sorting, measuring, and finally visualizing information. You now have the foundational framework that every single financial analyst uses. The only question left is, what stories are you going to find?